your food bribes to your question.
You may ask.
You can, yeah. This is for questions. These pads
This is
are
for
for
the questions you're afraid to ask openly, such as like, what is LoopStart?
or how do I beige box or something?
Yeah. Or what is a butt set?
Yeah. If you would feel lame asking it, and it would prevent you from doing so, write it down.
Yeah, because the questions still need to be answered, regardless of its simplicity.
Yes, because not everybody knows everything that they should. Okay, so we're about ready to start here. Check. And, is this thing on? Hello? Hi, this is live. Hello? The light is on.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Sing us some aria.
Okay, you're confusing me with the other slightly round guy who actually runs this thing. You don't want to hear me sing. It's worse than feedback. No, you really don't.
It is pretty bad.
It's awful. Worse is hearing me rap, and no, I won't do that either.
What up, Chi?
Yeah, word, bite, nibble. Anyway, shall we?
Yeah, are we ready to go?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Okay.
Just keep talking. We'll try to get everybody walking.
Okay.
Okay. So this will be the telecommunications question and answer panel. I'm Paul. This is Mike. He spent how many years at a CLEC, in various CLECs?
14 between CLEX and long distance carriers.
Yeah. And he's a PBX tech.
I'm Nick. I'm a PBX tech for an unnamed government entity. DMV.
This is the man who screws up and photoshops your driver's license photo.
Irrelevant.
I'm Joe, general telecommunications and data bitch for various companies.
You dropped the B word. Nice.
Yeah. I'm tired.
Me too. Anyhow, I work at a competitive local exchange carrier. I run a website called telcodata.us that you can look up various information about numbers, switches, things like that. And over the years, I've gotten a bunch of identical questions from people, and a lot of them just simply demonstrate that there's not enough training in the industry. No one really knows. They'll ask me either something simplistic or something that is completely irrelevant to telecommunications, or they'll be just simply asking the question wrong, and I won't understand what they're trying to say. And so last year, we had a fill-in speech for someone who didn't show, and it went really well. And so this year, we actually have it on the schedule, and people show. So the idea is to try and take questions from the audience, and you have a panel of experts here that probably collectively have 3/4 of a century of experience between data, telephone, and PBX, and anything else. So if you ever had a question, now's the time to ask it. Does anyone here want to start with a question?
We're going to use this mug for Q&A. We'll get you the
Oh,
other
okay.
one in just a second.
No, it's fine. I'll just yell.
Well, no, we need for the tape.
That's true.
And so for now, stand over there. We're going to try to get another solution.
That's fine.
So,
That's all right.
We're under 10.
We'll just be the 3 tenors.
That could be kind of painful.
Yeah, again, the singing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if no one has any questions, I'm just going to start going on about the divestiture, and you don't want that.
I guess I have a question. It's for you, Paul.
Okay.
Where do you get all the information for telco data?
Oh, I answered this one last year.
I wasn't here, sorry.
It's cool. The North American Numbering Plan Administrator provides a great deal of it. They're a publicly regulated body, I believe.
Federally, yes.
Yeah, something weird like that. And they're required to publish certain amounts of that data as to who is assigned a certain number block, what switch it's going to. And then the other thing is that CLECs and ILECs are required to publish certain amounts of their data. Like if they're going to make a switch change, they have to say, we're going to change this silly code. It's like a DMS 100. We're going to change it to a Siemens EWSD with this silly code on this date. And so I just look at that and go, oh, well, that silly code's a DMS 100 and that one's an EWSD. Now I know. And there's a lot of things like that. Like Verizon has an equal access site that says which switches are capable of pre-subscribing to a long distance carrier. And in there they include things like the switch type and everything else. So with that, I've been able to kind of put all that data together in a database and publish it on a website. Any other questions?
I got a two-part question for you, so to speak. I've recently been interested in exploring the world of Asterix, and I was wondering if you could give an overview on that, as well as, in your opinion, perhaps what the best live version of PBX software would be.
Does anyone here actually
by
deal
live,
with
I mean that can run from a CD, for example.
Right. Does anyone ever here actually use the live version?
I have used Trixbox for a few things, which is one of the only one I've actually played with so far. And between that, I mean, it gives you this really nice canned little distribution to play with, and it's got all the website stuff, and it says, hey, I'm going to throw this in, install it to your hard drive, or just run it off the CD, and then you can go in and manage things off the web interface. The problem is that it's their conception, and it's how they say, okay, we're going to set up everything for you and take care of it. You can just go through it in the web interface. Which, if that's as far as you want to go, that's fine. If you really want to get down into learning it, though, I mean, go into your favorite distro, either check it out from SVN or just install it, because like it's in Debian. There's a recent distribution of Debian test.
You can just apt it.
Yeah, you can apt-get it, or you can add it from CentOS or Fedora or whatever.
And I'm like a huge Debian zealot, but I still compile it. It's the one thing I ever compile.
Yeah, and he doesn't like compiling anything, so.
Yeah.
But if you really want to learn how it works, if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts, or if you find like a situation that's like, well, I need to configure this, but they didn't give me this option in the web interface, you're going to find yourself getting very frustrated with it. So my suggestion is like, you know, if you don't necessarily have another system to run it on, or if you don't want to mess with your current system, well, go get VMware Player, throw a Linux Player image on it, go get VMware Server, run it in there, just for test purposes with the internal loopback stuff. It works fine just for VoIP.
And
There's a Trixbox just for VMware.
Yeah, and that would work too, but my overriding point was that sometimes web interfaces prevent you from really starting to know what it can do and what it's capable of doing.
Right. And I have a customer, for example, who uses Trixbox, and they swear by it. The thing is that when they set up a SIP trunk with me, they had like 2 different peer entries. And I'm going, I just use friend. And they're like, my interface doesn't support that. I'm like, well, if I use friend, it all matches. And so he's like got this weird mismatch problem where some of it's in-band and some of it's AVT, RFC 2833 touch tones. And I've been fighting with him back and forth to try and get touch tones work properly on a system for like ages. But in the end, I just SSH to his machine, edited his SIP config file, and put that in there, and it was done. So, you know, it seems to be the most popular thing. It works for a number of people, but there is a lot of problems with either using web, or the other thing is that he couldn't upgrade it. You know, when you're doing something like running a general purpose OS, you can just upgrade the OS. When you're using something like Trixbox, it's got its own weird dependencies, and it doesn't sometimes install over itself properly. This is all, I have never done it, but this is what I've been told. And so, you know, he can't upgrade it to asterisk 1.4 without completely wiping it out and starting again. It's what he says. Doesn't mean he's necessarily clueful about it, but I'm going to take him at his word.
So I got some stuff in the hat, so.
Awesome. So it's legible.
I believe this one's for you.
Are you wearing underwear? Does it have Pikachu on it? I am indeed wearing underwear, and it is blue, no Pikachu. Aren't you glad you asked? Should I switch from cable internet service to DSL?
That would really depend on where you live or work or whatever. I mean, my office is in Farmington Hills, Michigan. We have DSL or cable service from Bright House, which is horrible. If they're equal, I guess you go on price, I mean, as long as it works, but in some areas you have cable service that's less than, that's crappy, and some areas you have DSL that's crappy, or both. It really depends on where you live.
And something I want to add to that, from my experience, it's been that in many cases, DSL will end up cheaper than the cable, but if you count in, they're right over there. If you count in perhaps bundling it in with your voice service, a lot of times I've been able to get service like T1 PRI bundled with their data service for maybe $20 more than what I would pay for regular analog phone lines and a DSL circuit. So that's also something to keep in mind. Basically, find the best thing to do the job at the best price that you can.
And you can also create your own best deals by doing what I do with Comcast. Like in my area, both services are equally good. Every few months, my wife calls Comcast and says, why should I stick with you guys when I can get DSL for $12.95 a month? Now, she knows the difference between the two services, but the clueless call center person doesn't. So suddenly our $44.95 gets knocked down to $20.95 for the next 6 months or whatever. You can make your own deals too.
I haven't paid a Sprint bill for the past 3 months.
Yeah, if you know how to argue with them. Yeah, it was one of my points last night. You could get a lot of stuff for free. The other thing with the DSL is that if you're looking at hosting your own services, a lot of the DSL providers are a lot friendlier in this regard. They don't filter 25 at the edge device. They don't filter port 80, that sort of thing. So if you're looking for somebody that did this, I would say, hey, go look at Speakeasy, but they just got bought by Best Buy, and we all know what happened to Geek Squad.
Any recommendations on other DSL carriers?
It depends on where you live. Disclosure, I'm a sales agent for the CLEC he works for. And actually that's not a bad point. If you can find a local reseller of service, because a lot of times what happens in the case of the CLEC Paul works for, they actually are riding on SBC's lines, but all the back-end stuff is their services, which means that it's all Ameritech's infrastructure, AT&T's infrastructure. They've been doing this long enough, there are enough buyouts that I use all three interchangeably. Find a smaller provider that's doing something like that has a good rep. Usually they'll work with you and they'll be a lot more clueful about doing stuff because there's usually one or two guys in the back end who are doing the support, the configuration, and the deployment of everything. And as long as you're not making their lives hell, a lot of time, which is a good thing, occasionally send them thank you emails for service, because the more you piss them off, all of a sudden stuff stops working. Or when it breaks, they're maybe less apt to go fight another fire and not that, but it's another rant. But that's the
like
big
if he's
advantage.
going to yell at me either way, why would I make it a priority?
Yeah, something like that. So if find a local provider. I don't, Speakeasy used to be who I recommended everybody, but again, they've just been acquired. Because they actually, for nationally, they were amazingly clueful for what they did, for the price you paid. The cable internet service, if you're on Wide Open West, you're actually doing fairly good because the support's not bad, but Comcast, well, they speak or do not speak for themselves, as it were.
And the same provider in one area can be great, and you go 5 miles across town and it completely sucks.
Exactly.
I've seen plenty of cases where, a customer is really great with Comcast in one area. In another place, they're taking their 6 meg DSL out and replacing it with one of our T1s. They just can't deal with it. And in one case, it was actually there was a Comcast office in the building, and they couldn't have a reliable telephone service. So they just
That's
switched to a T1.
Comcastic.
Well,
that is Comcast.
also, if you talk to the installers that come out, you tell them you're in the industry and stuff, they start to talk. And they start to be really honest with you, too.
Yeah, actually, that actually kind of goes and segues into a different digression, and a point I actually wanted to make last night and didn't, is when you get the installers out there, and anybody who attended the Secrets of the Dead Phone Guy, they're invisible. People don't talk to them. They just let them in and they do their thing. A lot of times, they're kind of lonely in a way. If you talk to them and ask them